Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Mel Kiper just dropped his third mock draft of the offseason, and in this one we're going to be breaking down the top 10 picks. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in. So with the first pick, Mel Kiper has the Jaguars going with defensive end from Michigan, Aidan Hutchinson, and it definitely seems to be the trend right now that the Jaguars have tagged tackle Cam Robinson once again, right? It's actually a second time on the franchise tag, but to me, well, I guess let's talk about the pick first. You can't go wrong here if you're Jacksonville, whether you go with Hutchinson, whether you go with Evan Neal, whether you go with a tackle, whether you go with Kayvon Thibodeaux. I really don't think you could go wrong. Obviously, Jacksonville is in a little bit of a culture change. Doug Peterson coming in, they added all of these new free agents, right? Spent a ton of money, so there's going to be a ton of new faces. But with that, there's still a bunch of positions of need. And when you're looking at, left tackle, when you're looking at edge rusher, and you have guys that would come in and immediately upgrade that position, it's a win-win. It is a win-win. So for the Jags fans, like, you're in a really, really good spot. But my only issue with thinking about Hutchinson and Josh Allen is absolutely insane, right off the edge. But I don't want to just completely jump off the offensive line bandwagon. To me, franchise tagging a left tackle that isn't really a top 10, top 12 guy isn't really like a long-term solution. To me, it's like a one-year insurance policy. I just can't picture Balky, Shad Khan, and Doug Peterson kicking their feet up after franchise tagging Cam Robinson and saying, you know what, our job is done. The offense, Trevor's going to be protected. We're locked in. We're solid here. I just can't really see that. So, if you take an offensive lineman first overall, that's a 5 to a 10-year investment. A franchise tag is literally a 1-year investment. Okay, so I wouldn't rule out an offensive lineman, but hey, if the Jags walk away with Hutchinson, you can't really complain. Next up at spot number 2, Mel has the Detroit Lions going with safety from Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton. I'm not going to lie to you, he's my favorite player in the draft. He plays my favorite position. He does that at a really high level. Great size, great speed, great ball hawking ability. He could roam as the back-end free safety. He could come up and play in the box, help stop the running game. You could play him at some slot corner if you really need him to, right? Drop down into that nickel role. And when I think about his fit inside the Aaron Glenn defense, especially pairing him up next to Tracy Walker, another one of my favorite players, I get excited. I really, really do. I feel like it could alleviate a lot of the problems in the back end of the defense, while, again, also coming up and stopping the running game. I mean, the safety position would be completely changed if you add a guy in Hamilton to the building. A high upside guy. The only two gripes. Number one, how do you feel about positional values? For some people, drafting a safety at 2 might be a little too high. Understandable, I get that. And then number 2, the Lions defensive back room is really young, right? I mean, we talked about Tracy Walker. We could look at Amani Oruwariye, who's actually from right down the road in Tampa. Really young player. Melon Fonwu, Jeff Okuda. I mean, this is a really young defensive back room. How does this coaching staff and front office feel about adding another rookie that has really high expectations to this room as a day 1 starter? Or will they take that number 2 pick and address another major position of need in pass rush? They let go of Flowers earlier. Do they select Kayvon Thibodeaux? I think he could be in play, but hey, if the Lions walk away with Kyle Hamilton, I would be pumped up. Next up at pick number 3, Mel has the Houston Texans going with tackle from NC State, Ikem Ekwonu. I like this pick. I just don't know if I love it. I look at the Texans right now. This is a team that traded Deshaun Watson. They got a huge haul back in return. They're moving forward with Davis Mills. They're keeping Laramie Tunsil on the roster. If you want to address right tackle, there's a guy in Evan Neal that can come in and immediately play right tackle. And I'm not saying Ikem Ekwonu can't, but I'm saying Ikem has had 3 years of experience playing left tackle, and Evan Neal has actually played all over the offensive line. So I think if you want more of a seamless transition, you would go with an Evan Neal. But hey, if you like Ikem Ekwonu better as a prospect than Evan Neal, and you feel comfortable with him playing right tackle and that the transition is going to be easy, then you take him. Okay, but for me, I prefer Evan Neal if I'm targeting the right side of the offensive line. That's just my take. Okay, so next up at pick number 4, Mel has the Jets going with wide receiver from USC, Drake London. The Jets are in a position just like the Jaguars where they could go in a lot of different directions and still walk away victorious at the end of the day, right? You could go with a wide receiver, you could go with offensive line, you could go with edge, and in this case, he's going with London. I think for me, even though I really like London as a prospect, the height, the hand power, red zone threat, box out ability, Everybody kind of links Mike Evans to Drake London. Even though I like all that stuff, I think 4 might be a little high, because here's the deal. When I look at wide receiver, I'm okay with a ton of guys. I really am. Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave. I mean, the list goes on and on. Like, I feel really solid about tons of different wide receivers in this class. Offensive line, somewhat of a different story. I like Ikem Ekwonu. I really like Evan Neal, and I really like Charles Cross. Cross and Neal are on the board here. When I look at edge, I really like Jermaine Johnson, and I really like Kayvon Thibodeaux. Both guys are on the board here. Will they survive to spot number 10? I don't know. But the wide receivers will be there, okay? So that's kind of the point I'm getting at. So at the end of the day, would the Jets be walking away as a better football team? Yes. No doubt about it, yes. But if you want to try to do everything possible to how should I word this, maximize your draft assets, you would probably maybe go with an offensive lineman or an edge rusher at that 4th spot, and then hope to get a wide receiver with the 10th pick. So I think I like this pick. I just don't love it, because for me, I look at edge as a huge position of need. You can go trade for a wide receiver. Again, you could select one at 10, you could select one in the 2nd round. I don't think you can select a monster edge. The monster edge rushers are not just a dime a dozen. And if Kayvon Thibodeaux has that potential, I think he's going to be the pick for me. Unless Evan Neal's on the board, then you have a little bit of a back and forth here. But I still, even in that scenario, I still think I would fall on KT. Anyway, Drake London to the New York Jets. Okay, so next up at spot number 5, Mel has the Giants going with tackle from Alabama. We just talked about him, Evan Neal. I really like this pick. I actually scratch that. I love this pick, okay? I look at the Giants' offensive line right now. There's a lot of holes. This is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, weakness of the football team. I like Andrew Thomas at left tackle, but everybody else I'm kind of either 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door with, or just completely out on. Evan Neal, a versatile guy. We said it before, he can play on the left side of the O-line, right side of the O-line. He can play some guard, he can play some tackle. So he gives you that versatility. He gives you a high floor with also a high ceiling. Quick feet, an athlete, but also brings that big size as well. I think really here for the Giants, whether you go with the Charles Cross, whether you go with an Evan Neal, I think you're walking away in a great position. The Giants have got to figure out the offensive line, make Daniel Jones' life as easy as possible, and help out the run game. Next up at 6, Mel has the Carolina Panthers going with defensive end from Georgia, Travon Walker. To me, I think if you're the Panthers right now, you got to address quarterback. I mean, they keep on striking out with these quarterbacks. I don't know what it is, whether it's Deshaun Watson, whether it was Matthew Stafford last year, whether it was Kirk Cousins this offseason. Carson Wentz has been moved. Russell Wilson has been moved. Aaron Rodgers is staying put in Green Bay. Marcus Mariota is now off the board. Jameis Winston is now off the board. Matt Ryan got traded to the Colts. Teddy Bridgewater, former Panther, off the board here. Like, these quarterback options are running out. I don't know what Carolina's plan is. I don't know if they feel great about Sam Darnold. I don't know. I don't know what this team is doing at quarterback. But hey, if they love Kenny Pickett, if they love Malik Willis, if they love whoever it may be, they are sitting here with the 6th overall pick with every quarterback on the board. Okay, and I'm not saying you got to go rush this guy into the starting lineup or anything like that, but what is the plan? What is the vision for the Carolina Panthers moving forward? So that's one problem. The other problem is offensive line. You have Charles Cross sitting here. I like Travon Walker. I do. The combine numbers are crazy. Super athletic guy. Super versatile guy. But I just don't know. This is the 6th overall pick in the draft. Matt Rule could be fighting for his job. He could very well be out in Carolina after a year from now. Does this team really want to go with another defensive end? I feel good about, Brian Burns coming off the edge. I feel like that's a pretty, they drafted Matos pretty early, recently. They have Derek Brown on the defensive line. I just don't know about this pick. I'm not sold on it. Next up at 7, Mel has the Giants going with Kayvon Thibodeaux, edge rusher from Oregon. What a great draft, for the Giants out there. We talked about it before. Edge rusher, getting after the passer is huge. Offensive line is huge, right? These are the 2 biggest weaknesses, in my opinion, on this football team. And you're landing arguably the best offensive lineman in the class in Evan Neal at 5. You're not picking 1st overall. You're not picking 2nd overall at 5. And then you come back and you're landing Kayvon Thibodeaux, arguably the best pass rusher in the class. Both guys are day one guys. Both guys are instant upgrades. A+ draft for the New York Giants. I mean, there's really nothing more that can be said about it. A+ for me. Okay, next up at 8, Mel has the Atlanta Falcons going with wide receiver from Ohio State, Garrett Wilson. Really like this pick, okay? I'm a big fan of Garrett Wilson. I think, in my opinion, he is the best wide receiver in this class, but of course it depends on your scheme. But I look at Garrett Wilson, he would come in and immediately be, I would say, the best wide receiver on the football team. You had the unfortunate situation with Calvin Ridley being suspended. He didn't really look like he was going to be a part of the Falcons long term. Russell Gage was lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the wide receiver position right now for the Falcons is slim. I understand that the Matt Ryan thing is kind of in the headlines right now for Atlanta, bringing in Mariota. I love that acquisition, by the way. I think it's extremely underrated. But wide receiver cannot be overlooked here. Okay, I know there might be the trend coming up of just going with Malik Willis here or Kenny Pickett at spot number 8, which could very well happen. But I also think that the Falcons aren't going to trade Matt Ryan away for a 3rd round pick if they're not going to have a plan. Okay, so whether they draft a quarterback here, whether they draft a wide receiver, I think it's important to trust this Falcons front office, to trust this Falcons coaching staff, because they know what they're doing. This is a calculated group, a calculated unit, and they're not going to wake up one day and be like, you know what, let's trade Matt Ryan. Let's just see what we can get. Okay, I know they were making that push for Deshaun Watson. I don't know if that, irritated Matt Ryan and then all of a sudden he wanted out. But I don't see this Falcons team making rash decisions or anything like that. If they go with wide receiver, I think you really got to buy in with Marcus Mariota as the day one QB1. Or maybe they go with a quarterback in round 2, like a Desmond Ridder or something like that. Another guy who I think is pretty underrated. But anyway, Garrett Wilson here, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think I would prefer London for the Falcons. But look, Wilson is a very, very good player. Next up at pick number 9, Mel has the Seattle Seahawks going with tackle from Mississippi State, Charles Cross. I really like this pick. I mean, not only am I just high on Charles Cross, I really like what he put together in the SEC as a pass blocker throughout the course of his career. But I look at Seattle right now, I feel like there's always kind of been problems on the offensive line, and Brown is no longer, he is still available as a free agent. So you could bring Charles Cross in, day one immediate starter at the left tackle position. Also a quarterback, whether it's a Drew Lock, whether it's another rookie coming in, whether it's a Baker Mayfield, whoever's playing quarterback, you got to make sure that they are protected. Okay, that's the bottom line. I mean, you can't roll somebody out there for a second chance, right? Pete Carroll had his press conference. He was talking all about, second chances. It was awesome, but you can't give Baker Mayfield, a fair second shot. If he's getting killed, if he's running around for his life, you can't give Drew Lock a second chance. For the same reasons. It's not realistic. Okay, so Charles Cross, love him as a prospect, comes in, huge position of need, day one starter. I love this pick. And last but not least, at spot number 10, Mel has the Jets going with cornerback from Cincinnati, Ahmad Gardner. Now, we all know how good of a prospect, how good of a player Ahmad Gardner is, and not only just is right now, but could be in the future, right, at the pro level. He has the potential to be a true lockdown guy. Multiple interceptions back every season in college, 3 freshman year, 3 sophomore year, 3 junior year, and really his junior year, it just blossomed into this insanely productive season. I mean, he was flat out awesome. I mean, the stat that everybody knows, never allowed a collegiate touchdown pass. That is incredible when you think about it. Because he wasn't some one-year starter. He didn't just play 10 games or anything like that. No, he was out there for 3 years. Missed some time here and there, but he was out there for the majority of his 3 years, and that is absolutely crazy. He has the size, he has the speed, he has the explosiveness, he has the aggressiveness, and he has this certain confidence, this moxie about him that I feel like draws players in. It gets players to buy in, and similar to a Jalen Ramsey. I'm not saying Gardner is Jalen Ramsey or anything like that, but they have that same type of attitude about him, and I think that would be really enticing for the Jets defense. So overall, I would really like this pick, but my only concern here is what's happening at tackle. I'm assuming that George Fant would be playing tackle as well as Mekhi Becton, but we didn't really do anything at tackle in free agency. We, are not investing either first round pick in a tackle. So a complete assumption here. Mekhi Becton's healthy, according to Mel Kiper, and it's going to be Fant and Becton locking it down. Another concern, edge. Yes, we brought in Jacob Martin from Houston, but is he the long-term guy? No. And we had an opportunity to draft a Kayvon Thibodeaux. We had opportunities to draft a Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. Okay, so what's really happening at edge? I would say edge is more of an important position in this style of defense than cornerback. We have Bryce Hall, we have Brandon Echols, we have Michael Carter, we just added DJ Reed. I could see the Jets saying, you know what, edge is more important than corner. Let's take an edge early and then try to shoot for an Ahmad Gardner at spot number 10 or a wide receiver or something like that. So if the Jets are walking away with Gardner in London to end day one of the NFL draft, I would be pumped up. I would like it. But I think if I was running the show, if I was making these draft picks and the board is falling like this, I think I would have gone with Kayvon Thibodeaux at spot number 4. And then it's tough. It's really tough because all the offensive linemen are off the board. So I would probably end up going with Gardner and just totally upgrading the defense here. Or try to look for a trade back. But, I mean, nobody knows who's trading up, who's trading down. It's just a complete shot in the dark. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Drake London, Ahmad Gardner, thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.